They said it couldn't be done. They said I was crazy, but I've done it! A dynamic text box with minimal expressions, minimal effects, that dynamically updates as you change your text, without the need for monospaced fonts, without the need for shape layers, masks, or anything, because it's all on one layer. Let's peek behind the curtain and see how we create this in Adobe After Effects. So we're here in a brand new After Effects composition, and what we'll do is create our text layer. We'll go select our text tool, or you can hit Ctrl T, and we'll click in the middle and type our text out. Now we're going to add in a bunch of expression controls just to give us a bit more control over how things look at the end. So we'll go to Effect, Expression Controls, and Slider Control, and this is just like basic value. So we'll rename this to Additional Left, and then hitting Ctrl D, we can actually duplicate the selected effect. So in this case, we're going to call this new one Additional Right, and we'll hit Ctrl D again, hit Enter, and we'll call this Expand Edge. Now we need one more expression control, and that is our color control, and this is going to be our box color. So now we have our expression controls we need. Now we need to add the actual effects that'll drive our dynamic text box. So we'll go to Effect, Stylize, CC Reptile, and what CC Reptile will do is actually, it determines the spacing between our edge of our text and the edge of our box. So this does all the cool stuff like that. So you'll see we have 4 different properties, but I don't want to have to write 4 different expressions trying to calculate things. I just want to run it on the one. I'm going to hold Alt and click on the stopwatch on Expand Right, and then I'm just going to pick whip it to the Expand Up property. So I'll write my expression of Expand Up. But for these, I also have the Additional Left and Additional Right. That gives me a little bit more control over the customization at the end. So I'm going to hit plus and actually pick whip this to the Additional Right slider as well. Now I'll do the same thing for the Expand Left, only I'm selecting the Additional Left slider. Now Expand Down is the simplest of all. I'm literally just going to refer it to the Expand Up property, semicolon, and click off it, and you can see there we go. That's what we need for those. Now the Expand Up, I'm going to click on and type my equation. Now because the scaling of my text layer doesn't naturally translate into the value for our Reptile properties, I'm going to need to do a little bit of maths here. Additionally, I'm going to need to know if I'm actually scaling with a parent null or not, as that tends to be the way you control groups of layers. So I'm just going to use the try expression to be able to determine if I'm using a parent or not. So in this case, I've worked out that 0.15 times the parent transform scale 0 minus 3 gives us a pretty good result. Now scale 0 is purely referring to the fact that we scale in both the X and Y dimension, but naturally we're scaling both of them together. So it doesn't really matter which one of these it refers to, but I need to pick one of them. Now I'm also going to hit plus and pick whip our Expand Edge, and that just gives us a little bit more control as well. Now I'm going to select this whole thing that I have here, because I want to do the same thing if we don't have a parent. So in that case I need to type catch error, and then have our function like so, and I'll paste it and just remove the parent being referred to there, and everything else is pretty well the same. So you can see if I try to do this with a parent, it's going to actually give me an error because there's no parent for this actual layer, but it will actually refer back to, alright, what to do when I have that error. In this case, it's just going to do the normal transform and refer to the transform of our text layer. That's completed now, and you can see clicking off, we start getting this interesting sort of border around. Now we need to add our next effect, which is, if I select the layer, Effect Generate Beam. And I'm going to drag that to be just underneath our Reptile layer here. Now we're going to change a bunch of these effects. We want our length to be 100. The time, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to say our starting thickness is 1080, and our ending thickness is 1080, and we'll drop the softness to 0. Now for the inside and outside color, I'm actually going to hold Alt and click on that and actually pick whip all the way up to our box color, because I want it to be driven off that box color. And if I go in here, I can pick any kind of color I want. There's our good old Media Workbench gold that we have. Now additionally, I'm going to want to put a quick expression on our starting point and our end point. And this really isn't calculating all that much, it's just kind of forcing it to have a variable. So we're going to do square bracket 0, comma, this comp dot height /2, and we'll click off. And for our endpoint, we'll square bracket this comp dot width, comma, this comp dot height /2 square bracket. And what these two values are doing is it's forcing the beam starting point and end point to be in the very middle horizontally for our composition, but also be on the far left and far right. So basically filling up the entire space. You'll see though that it's not actually visible in that entire space. It's purely within where our text layer area is. And this is the sort of cheeky tricks that makes this whole thing work. Our Reptile layer is actually pushing out our boundaries for our text layer, and then our beam is actually just generating within those bounds. We need one more expression in order to bring our text back, and that is under Effect, Channel, CC Composite, and we'll drag it up like so, and we'll change our Composite Original over to Silhouette Alpha. And you can see there now that our text is kind of clearing through, we can see things nice like that. If you want, you can also do this to being in front, and you can just pick a text color that you want that works well. You've got a couple of different flexibilities in that. Now, if we hit S on our actual text layer and scale it up and down, you'll see that the edges actually scale nice and in proportion. Additionally, if we actually show what these expression controls let us do, the additional left slider, if we drag it to the left, actually expands out, so we've got some cool stuff going on there. If we hit Ctrl Z and do the same with the right, we can do the same thing there. So you can see how it can easily give you a bit more flexibility in how you present things. Additionally, the expand edge gives us the option of expanding, and then you can see as we scale up and down, that's kind of kept in proportion like so. And you could parent this to a null object. We'll create a quick one like so. Pick whip the parent to the null and scale the null, and you'll see things stay in proportion like so. And this would work for any font that you want. Say if you went for impact, there you go, you can see like so. And we can easily go in and change this to say anything. And additionally, it works quite well as multiple lines. If we just give us a space there, you can see how it turns into that result like so. So that's the dynamic text box. You can see it has a lot of different controls to it, a lot of potential in your compositions. A quick thing of note though is that this isn't completely foolproof. If I try to rotate it, you can see the box kind of it doesn't rotate, it just does weird stuff. So in this instance, you'd have to pre-compose this in order to get that same effect. Additionally, you may find that the text disappears while you're working in your composition, and that just has to do with the way it's trying to render stuff. If you go edit, purge all memory right before you render, it generally doesn't have any issues to speak of. But if you're trying to layer it with multiple effects on top, it can be a little finicky. I find the best thing to do is kind of pre-compose it if you're going to be doing anything like that. But for general use, and you'll see this used throughout all my Media Workbench videos, it works fine. So that's how you create a dynamic text box. You can animate the text as you would in a bunch of different ways, and you can get that effect really working well. If you have any ideas of how to use this or potentially solve some of the issues that it presents, then leave a comment in the comments section below. Until next time, my name is Bench, and thanks for watching.